Welcome to season 2 of Fractional CMOs and the 90-Day Win. It's going to be that kind of episode, I think. I'm Dean Way. This season, we're going to talk through scenarios that companies and these CMOs experience to share lessons learned and tips on how to get the most out of the fractional CMO that you've hired. So, hi, Heidi.
Hey, Dean.
Okay, Heidi. So, we'll start off with our first hypothetical. You just started a 1-year fractional CMO engagement. Today's day 1. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What's the first problem that most of your clients need you to start fixing, or what's the first problem you go hunting for? And also, tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, I'll start with a quick introduction. I'm a fractional CMO exclusively for B2B companies. So a big chunk of my time lately actually has been writing business books. I've written about 15 books, seven in business, 8 in fiction, and sold about 500,000 copies.
Wow.
I focus on opening new markets for software companies and then scaling them from about 5 million in revenue to 50 million. And I also work with top performers who want to stand apart in ultra competitive fields like professional services, particularly commercial real estate. So I figure out how to market what makes them special. So that's a little bit about me. And then to answer your question about that hypothetical 1-year engagement, the first thing I go looking for is an understanding of the sales funnel, of getting somebody from awareness into kind of understanding interaction, desire, and then finally into conversion and that sale. And I want to make my first project be a focused marketing tactic that's going to create a revenue generating or conversion opportunity. And that's because I'd like to be able to show the power and value of marketing from month 1. I think a lot of people go into fractional CMO assignments and they're really not sure what they're going to get, and they're really not sure what the value is. So I like to be able to show the value in dollars delivered in that first month. And so, for example, we had 550 people on one of my B2B customers' sales qualified leads list. And once I realized that the conversion was the first order of business, not awareness. And so we weren't going to write a bunch of content for SEO. Instead, what we were doing is focusing on sales tools and real reasons to convert through a sampling system. And that meant we built out sample boxes that would create kind of an ooh and ah factor. So when people actually opened them up, it almost looked like they were receiving a gift, even though the gift was what the business sold inside of it. And in another case, for a software company, we actually sent longboards, like big skateboards in monster-sized boxes to our highest value leads. And that was the point of conversion. We got about 40% conversion off of that to get them into the sales conversation.
Okay, awesome. Hey, Virginia.
Hey, how you doing, Dean?
Good, thank you. Okay, so same question. After you tell the audience a little bit about you, what problem do you normally go hunting for? Because your clients usually aren't aware they have it. Or what problem do they sort of push in front of you and say, please, Virginia, please take care of this and get it off our plate?
Well, I'm Virginia Case. I'm a fractional chief marketing officer for my own company, Stratic, which is strategy and tactics as one. I mainly work with companies between 2 to 15 million in revenue. And the focus there is on figuring out how they're going to stand out, dialing in their user experience and being open to the problems that are keeping them small so that we can fix them. So in this hypothetical 1-year engagement, I seek out the problems. I often tell people that it's going to be with love and affection that I tell them the hard things. And it's the first thing that I go looking for is, where's the dirt? What's wrong? What's keeping you small? Why are we having this problem where you're either flat or declining? Because my clients are in a slightly different area than Heidi's, we're really looking at that Series A round for people being able to figure out, oh, geez, how am I going to work with this potentially first marketing hire for the company, and how am I going to make the most of that engagement? And so when people bring me in, the first thing they need to start fixing is some of those misconceptions that they potentially have about that marketing hire, or potentially the things that they have about misconceptions in the marketplace. So I'll actually jump into search engine optimization right in the beginning, but from a search engine result page analysis standpoint, to be able to pull back the misconceptions and potentially the wishful thinking that there are no competitors for the space that they have entered.
All right, then. All right. So staying inside, and with that topic, staying inside our hypothetical of 1 year engagement, right? Besides being open with you, how else should or can a CEO get maximum value from their fractional CMO? Or if you prefer to answer it this way, how do CEOs waste the money that they've spent on their fractional CMO? Virginia.
So
Sorry, yeah.
I think that the biggest way that CEOs miscommunicate is that they undercommunicate. I think that the sharing of information that they perceive that is relevant or necessary can kind of fall into strictly what's happening inside the pipeline.
Right.
And what I've seen as a mistake is not understanding that there are other things that happen inside of operations or inside of employee engagement that can have a really significant impact on what you actually want to market, what you actually can give to your salespeople to go out into the workplace and tell other people about the wonders of your organization. And so the CEO can sometimes put you in this box that says, okay, well, you should really focus marketing only, marketing only. And in each of my engagements, I kind of say, we have to have some boundaryless conversations here where we can talk about sales, we can talk about operations, we can talk about your employee experience, your customer experience, and that it needs to be an okay thing to do because those things are all the things that are great and potentially not so great about your organization. And either way, I need to know which direction we should go to be able to put the message out into the world so that people can choose you or not choose you.
Heidi, how do you think companies or CEOs waste the money that they spend on the fractional CMO? Waste the opportunity, you could say.
Yeah. I think if you're lucky, the CEO knows good marketing when they see it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're unlucky, they really don't. But what the CEO is missing usually as a part of their skill set is understanding what good marketing looks like at a really granular level. And so they can bring in a CMO who is adept at coaching team members or assembling all of those components to deliver. So I would say kind of broadly, they should be thinking of a fractional CMO as a partner in up-leveling the business. Like our job is to bring in outside ideas, knowledge of different ways of structuring teams or structuring KPIs, for example. And then from the vision and goals of the company, we can build a marketing organization toward that future that they intend, and then show everyone what their role is in it, which could include like very specific coaching or very granular delivery of tactics.
Okay. All right. So let's shift our hypothetical a little bit. A good friend of yours recently became a fractional CMO. They just got their first client. It's a 1 year engagement, like a big win for them. But there's a marketing team already in place, like junior people, mid-level people, maybe a manager or two, right? Like, what's the number one lesson you're going to give your friend, or the kind of advice like, okay, definitely do this, or like definitely avoid doing this when you kick off and start interacting with this team when you're fractional and they're full-time?
Yeah. Number one is you have to come in as a team player, not a hired gun, right? So lots of people are going to be suspicious of your motives and worry that, you're potentially a hatchet person for the CEO. And so by coming in, getting your hands dirty, doing things with empathy and asking a lot of questions before you make assertions or level judgments is, I think, really critical. I've seen so many new CMOs, whether fractional or full-time, come in and then just start to poo-poo everything that's been done up until that point, when in fact, those people were doing the best they could with the resources and skills they had. So rather than poo-pooing it, say, kind of take the tack of yes and, like, yes, I see what you've built here, and we can add to this, and we can take this to the next level in this way. And so if you can build that accountability through empathy, through delivery, and not just walking in with a big fancy degree or a big name tech firm on your resume, you're going to be more successful. And one last thing I would add is that as the fractional CMO, you need to get as close to the decision maker as possible. If you're going to be held at arm's length from the CEO, just like you were saying, Virginia, about the CEO's tendency to undercommunicate, if you're held at arm's length, then you're kind of put in a box and you won't have the knowledge to be able to do the best work that you can. And so this is one of the reasons that I often choose to work with top producers who are solo practitioners. They're already making millions of dollars in commercial real estate or finance, and they're the ones that are writing the check out of their personal checking account to me. They are the decision makers. And by being really close to the decision makers, I get more intel, I get more autonomy, I get more done.
Uh-huh. Virginia, how about you? What would you tell
Heidi,
your friend to do or to avoid?
I have to say, Heidi, I love everything that you said. And one of the first things I always think about with this is let people know that you come in peace. I know that that sounds silly, but a lot of times when we're coming into these organizations, people do have that defensive posture. And it's like, oh no, I have that vision from Office Space that you're about to come in here and you have no idea what I'm about, what this organization's about. And yet you're going to start coming in here and dictating all these things that need to happen. And I think that it can put the people who are in-house on a very defensive path. And so if you let those intentions be known up front, even if you have to use some selective transparency, maybe you are the hatchet guy. Maybe you are the guy who is coming in to be very critical of what's going on in the organization. Why isn't it working the way that it needs to be? Being as forthcoming and authentic as you can be, I think is really helpful. And so my first piece of advice to a fractional CMO going into the space is try to continue to be who you are as a person and show up with that authenticity, but also understand that those people are going to be coming at you from a place of fear and that none of us operate in our best mind when we're coming at it from a place of fear.
Right.
And the other part that I would give is the advice to a friend is boundaries. Man, do you need to have boundaries? Working as a fractional executive, you have to figure out when you want to work, how much you want to work, which clients deserve how much amount of time, and how much of your emotional bandwidth at different points in time can you actually give to them. And so as you are out there and being excited about the work you're doing, hopefully, you still have to pause and go, all right, I know that I'm super passionate about this client. They don't have the budget for more time with me. I have to set the personal boundary of I can't take on more work, or maybe I want to give up my weekends or my nights, or whatever the case may be for where your boundary is set. And just be sure that you're okay with it personally, because that's where resentment starts, is if you haven't made peace with what those boundaries are for you personally, then it's just going to come back and bite you later on.
All right. So that's a good point about boundaries. Let's shift a little bit. All right. We're not, I'm not a fractional CMO anyway, but you're not the fractional CMO anymore. You're one of those marketing team members, and you've just found out that the company is bringing in a fractional CMO. And after you're done Googling what fractional CMO means, you get it, right? Like what changes can you expect, or what might your first couple of moves be as that full-time employee on day one when that fractional CMO shows up?
So I think the changes would be a perceived lack of trust. Whereas you may have been operating inside of an environment where you could kind of just go along doing what you do every single day. This fractional CMO is going to go through a discovery period, understanding who you are, what you're about, what the roles and responsibilities are associated with you individually and with other people on the team. And it can start to feel very vulnerable for a lot of people when you start asking about, okay, well, how come you do it that way? Or what are the results of those different things that you've been doing? Because it can feel accusatory, like you've done something wrong, even if you haven't.
Yeah.
And it can also feel like for those people that anything they say can and will be held against them. That's not fun either. So being able to understand that one of the biggest changes is that you're going to probably have to disclose a lot more about what you do in a course of a day than you would have previously. And understanding that that's not necessarily going to have to happen all the time forever. It's just for now as somebody is getting up to speed.
Heidi, what do you think? You're the FTE now. What do you do?
Yeah, I really like your point, Virginia, because I think that if you can kind of take on the burden of tremendous transparency and self-management, then you're going to build that accountability and that trust with your fractional CMO. Because I think that a lot of times what changes for somebody is that they perceive a lack of empathy from the outsider, or they get a sense that they're now being cut off from the key decision makers. They might have been reporting to the CEO all this time, and then suddenly a fractional CMO comes in and like disconnects them. And so they're already kind of feeling disconnected. So I'd say ideally what happens when you get a fractional CMO in is that you're going to see more focus. Rather than kind of running around like a chicken with your head cut off, like you're real busy and you've got a million different things on your plate, you're going to be able to work with the fractional CMO, throw 10 ideas on the board, and then work on maybe just 2 or 3 of them and use rapid experimentation and then assess or double down on what's working or not working. And then the other thing you can do as a individual working for a fractional CMO is really talk to them about where they're placing their bets, and then how can you best add value? How can you participate in that process? Because the onus is on the fractional CMO to do a good job. And so if they really feel like you're a full participant, you're showing alignment, and then through accountability, you're showing and building trust with them, then they're going to really embrace you as part of their project.
I want to insert an extra question in here, but related to that. Okay, so you're watching this video, okay, and your company just hired a fractional CMO. Tell me like one smart question or one smart thing that employee should say in the first one-on-one they have with that fractional CMO.
Ooh, I love this. I mean, the immediate question is, where are you placing your bets and how can I best align them?
Right.
But also, I mean, in that process of speaking with the CMO and getting them up to speed on who you are and what you can contribute, I think a key question to ask is, where should I develop my skills or even just change the way I work to be a better contributor? And so you're showing a level of self-awareness and willingness to be flexible. And you're asking them, how can you, bring more to the table? And they should have a good answer, honestly.
And Virginia, what do you think?
So I try to come at it from a slightly human then job function standpoint. And so I think that what I would be looking at is asking the fractional CMO why they actually wanted to take the position. Because as a fractional, we get to choose who we work with, and we can choose not to work with them. And it doesn't hurt as much as somebody deciding to leave a full-time position. So understanding why that person is excited about the organization and the things that they have maybe on their roadmap would give me insight as that employee about what might be on my horizon. Right. And that would also give me some insights into areas that I might be able to grow personally, being able to understand the different pieces and parts of that person's background and being able to understand, oh, geez, I'd really love to know more about how graphic design is done. And that seems to be someplace that you started with your roots and you've got these great agencies that you're going to bring in. That sounds fantastic. Maybe that's a passion area for me. Maybe it's something that I've just had as a hobby. Being able to know more about the human behind the role is going to help me be able to navigate what's important to both of us and be able to determine what's going to be the path of least resistance for us to be able to get on the same page and be able to make things better for the organization as a whole.
All right. So, Virginia, I keep asking this question. I workshop all of a season's questions with fractional CMOs before we ever record anything. The questions are different in every season. And this question split everybody because everybody thought that the only answer I would ever get was the answer that they gave me. And but I consistently get 50-50, 60-40. It's not universally, agreed upon. Which do you prefer? A fractional engagement that's a marathon or a fractional engagement that's a sprint? Like with an actual end date and you want to do certain things and conduct certain activity and ideally hit certain goals by an end date, or is it sort of a drip, continue on for as long as it makes sense to keep going? What's your preference?
So my preference is very much based off of whether or not the company is in a growth stage or if they are in a maintenance stage. If they have hired somebody to just kind of come in and check to make sure that there's enough air in the tires and to just keep going on and maintaining, those ones I'd rather be in and be done.
Yeah.
Figure out, do some audits, kind of do it as a sprint, and go on my merry way. If it's an organization that is potentially plateaued and doesn't want to be plateaued and wants to make changes and doesn't know where to start, oh man, get me in that marathon. I want to be part of that growth. I want to be part of the trajectory. I want to be
Right.
able to help them being, part of the engine that's going to make them succeed and be able to see new heights. That's really important to me. And I think that there are probably two different camps. You've got the maintenance marketers and you've got the growth marketers. And no offense to either of them. I think that the world really, really needs maintenance marketers because without you, the world would not continue to go on. We need somebody to continue to carry that flag and be consistent because I'm always preaching about how consistency is key to helping people have, that authentic relationship with a brand. It's not changing every single day. But for me, I like that excitement. I like that being able to
Mhm.
adapt quickly, have that agile mentality. So maybe I'm more of a sprinter than a
Sounds
marathoner
like you're more of
in
a sprinter.
categories and marathoners in others.
Yeah. And Heidi, what do you think? Marathons or sprints for you?
Um, I think that the marathon holds a tremendous amount of attraction because of the human side of it, because you have the opportunity to participate with people in helping to define their career and their growth over time and be really deeply embedded in the company. And you're not just, picking whatever you see, but like that you're really woven into the fabric of the company. But for me, like Virginia, I am more of a sprinter, which is based on this idea that I would rather build a ship than sail it. So I'd rather come in with bubblegum and duct tape and MacGyver skills and try to build something where you have a very clear declared project intention and you have people who show up with that strong intention to be part of it. And those are the projects where you really see that hockey stick growth or an inflection point. So I feel like those are more exciting, and also they can be more transformative to a business rather than just come in, steer the ship, do some optimization. That's not as exciting for me.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm on the sprint side. I'm not a fractional CMO, but like 95% of copywriters are content writers, and I don't do any content marketing, content writing. That's a marathon. And
Yeah.
I definitely like the sprint stuff and staying at the top of the buyer's journey and writing the first thing a prospect's ever going to see. So I'm definitely on the sprinting side. So to Andrew and Jose, who said that everyone was going to answer one way, you're wrong again. So there. Although you guys both kind of answered the same way, but I do get a lot of variety. So there. Okay, Heidi. So who should be reaching out to you, and how would you like them to do it?
Ooh, I would love folks reach out from HeidiTretheway.com, my website. The folks who are going to find me most successful as their fractional CMO are looking for a major scale up or a major pivot in their business. And so they're going to be likely technology firms or B2B firms. And then I also am working with individuals who are really struggling with their differentiation. So I had a client who had spent 2 years working with a business development coach to try to articulate what was making him different.
Hmm.
And he just never could really nail it in right. And so we spent a couple of sessions together and we were able to really clearly articulate his market difference, that it wasn't just I do the most deals or I'm the biggest guy in this market, but that he has an actually different way of approaching the market. So those are my kind of two main food groups.
Okay. And Virginia, who should reach out to you, and how would you like them to do it?
I work primarily with the tech sector, but most specifically with cybersecurity. And so if you're a startup, I want to talk to you. Um, Especially if you're a startup who's trying to figure out where those marketing dollars need to go in the very beginning, because I understand how challenging it is to figure out where it's going to have the greatest impact. And so for different types of entrepreneurs, please look me up on LinkedIn. I share a lot of content for entrepreneurs there that you can kind of get to know my flavor and style there. And if you're looking for some personalized advice, you can look me up at virginiacase.com. And if you need some additional help from a strategy and tactics standpoint, you'll want to go to my website, stratac.com, stratac.com.
Awesome. It's I don't know why, but I'd never crossed paths with the entire cybersecurity industry until last week. I just signed my first ever cybersecurity client.
Well,
So
congratulations.
thanks. I'm looking forward to digging into the industry a bit and trying to helping those guys stand out. Okay, so that's it. Thank you very much, Heidi. Thank you very much, Virginia. I really appreciate you being here. Thanks for watching this, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you, Dean.